Hey everybody, it's me. I am at Greenville, Mississippi, and I am right outside of Greenville, Mississippi actually, and I'm at the Winterville Mound Indian site. The museum is closed, but you can see it back over there. But here's what I want to show you. That right there is the main event. That's the big mound. And you can see where this thing ramps. There's a ramp that comes up to the top and it goes off to the side. This thing is monstrous. I'm standing on one of the smaller mounds now. Now, I'm not gonna have a real long video here, but I do want to make a point. It involves research that I've been doing over the last few months. And it's kind of come to a semi-head in that, as the title of this video will imply, Nephilim giants in Mississippi. Were there Nephilim giants in the state of Mississippi back, centuries ago, hundreds of years ago? My research has led me to the answer as being yes. Now then, when I say Nephilim, what am I talking about? Now, we're not going to go into a big theological preaching session here. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. But for those of you that are familiar with the Bible and Christians like I am, you're going to know a little bit about what I'm talking about here, if not a lot. In Genesis chapter 6, it talks about how the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and after. And what that's implying is, even after the flood, which was brought on by God to destroy the wickedness in mankind, a lot of the Nephilim survived. And when the water subsided, they went right back to doing what they were doing. And what these Nephilim were and what they were doing, the Nephilim were the offspring of angelic beings that came down from heaven, defied God, and they had sexual relations with the women, the daughters of man. They didn't stop there. They also had relations with a lot of other things, the animals and the beasts and the reptiles and things like that. And that's why when spies went into the land of Canaan, they saw all these monstrosities. But anyway, back on point, and I'll break this down in later videos. But the Nephilim were the offspring of angels, and these offspring, they were obviously hybrids. They were part angel, they were part human. They were huge. Their stature was gigantic, and these beings, they were aggressive. They didn't like man. They hated man, and they basically set themselves up to take over. And that's what they did in a lot of areas, especially that we know of in the Middle East. So the Nephilim were fierce warriors. They were monsters. They were absolute monsters, and they loved killing. They loved bloodthirst. They loved destroying man and taking over and ruling over mankind in the areas that they were able to conquer. They were very sexually perverse, as we just touched on, which is another thing that upset God. Now again, I'm not trying to be a preacher. I'm not a pastor or anything like that. The Bible is a very good history book. So whether you're a Christian or whether you're not and you're watching this video, you can look at the Bible however you want. I look at it as a divine work of God. I look at it as an outstanding history book. So, in Genesis 6, it says the Nephilim were on the earth. It doesn't say they were just over here in the land of Canaan. They weren't around Mount Hermon. They weren't, in just the Middle East. It says on the earth. So that brings me to this point. Part of the reason why I'm here. The Choctaw Indian and Chickasaw Indians that were, you know, the predominant tribes here in the state of Mississippi, when they crossed over the Mississippi River into Tennessee, and then they migrated down into Mississippi, they encountered a race of giants, 8 to 10 feet tall, pale skinned. They were very aggressive, they were very warlike, they were bloodthirsty, they were sexually perverse, they messed with their women and their children, and it didn't end well. It didn't go well when the Choctaw Indians bumped into these creatures. It always ended in bloodshed. It always ended in war. In fact, the Choctaw Indians made the point that every opportunity they had, every chance they got to kill these giants, they did just that. They killed them. And the thing of it is, we hear about this all over the United States. All your Indian tribes had encounters with Indians. When you look at the Indians that dealt with these giants, these red-haired giants at Lovelock Cave over in the west, they had to fight and take matters into their own hands because of what these giants were doing to them and their people. And finally it led into those Indians slaughtering and doing away with these giants. So basically the Choctaw, they had the same problem here. Now, I'll say this real quick and I'll bring this to a pause. And we'll go into this a little later on. If the Choctaw Indians bumped into giants here in Mississippi and Tennessee, what were they bumping into? Well, when you look at all your major religions, when you look at Islam and the Quran and things like that, the Bible, all these different nations and religions, they talk about giants too. And a lot of them point out the same thing, that angels came down, mated with human women, and had these giants. So, it is my thought, it's my view, that what the Choctaw Indians, which I have Choctaw blood in me, what they bumped into and what they encountered in Tennessee and here, and probably all over the United States, they were bumping into giants that were already here. See, that's the thing. The Choctaw bumped into these things. They found these things in places where they were moving into. They were already here. These giants predated the Choctaw Indians coming into Mississippi and Tennessee. I believe that what the Choctaw Indians were bumping into were Nephilim. Their description, their behaviors, the way they acted and conducted themselves, they were bumping into the Nephilim. Again, I may go into a series later on where I kind of break it down and be a little more specific, but that's where a lot of my research has brought me, and that's why I'm here at Winterville Mounds. Now, I'm not saying that Nephilim built these mounds, but let me point this out. Over in Ohio and different places up north, there's mounds and things, effigies built, that when the white man and the Spanish and the French, when they were encountering the Indians there and they would come up on these mounds and things, they would ask the Indians, well, who built this? Did you build this? And the Indians would go, no, this was already here when we got here. So these mounds, these huge, well-built structures, they were already there as the Indians moved in to claim that territory and make that their home. They were already there. And here's the kicker. Some of those mounds and effigies, they were designed to be visible, the characteristics, the high points of them. They were designed to be seen from above. You couldn't necessarily make them out on the ground. You had to be up in the air to be able to see these things. So if the Nephilim built these things, as I believe they did, who were they trying to show off for? Well, they were probably trying to show off for their angelic or demonic parents. A lot to think about, isn't it? Now again, I'm not saying the Nephilim built Winterville Mounds. I'm sure it's, you know, probably quite the contrary. But that's my story, and that's part of why I'm here, because I wanted to experience and see this, and to see this mound the way it is. I've never been able to come back this far and see all this, but to see that ramp, to see how huge this thing is, it really makes you wonder. So again, Nephilim giants in Mississippi, possible? I think it's highly probable. I think the Chickasaw and the Choctaw Indians did bump into giant Nephilim here in Mississippi. So, food for thought. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will continue my tour of the rest of the mounds here and look around and see what happens, and if it does, I'll cut the camera back on and report it. But I hope you enjoyed this. Please hit the like button, subscribe. There'll be more content coming. There'll be more content coming about the Nephilim, about Bigfoot and Dogman. So if you like what you're seeing here, please like, subscribe, and if you want to leave me a message, especially if you've had an encounter or, you know, you have a report that you want to make. So until then, this is Marcus signing out. Give you a last view of that incredible Indian mound. Catch you later.